Hi gang, Elizabeth here with Dandy Soap for DandelionSoap.com, and today's DIY, we are going to make a fireplace slash backdrop for photograph cover. So if you will see here, I have our supplies right here, and this you will be able to magnetize it to your refrigerator and use it as a backdrop for photographs during the holidays, or magnetize it to your fireplace as a fireplace cover, or perhaps some area where maybe it used to be a fireplace there. So this is a beautiful print. It is Home for the Holidays, the blue truck, which is my favorite. This is the one that I go out seeking. You see a lot of my DIYs have the little red truck because, well, that's the one we keep finding. But I'm actually into the little blue truck. So this I absolutely love. I'm tickled. And guys, here are our supplies we will need. You will need ice cream sticks. You can use any size you want. These came from the Dollar Tree. Buffalo check fabric from Walmart. You will use magnets. Now I have both sizes. I have the 1 inch and I have the 4-pack of the jumbo 1.5 inch. Scissors, hot glue gun, hot glue, and some 2 inch to 2.5 inch wide ribbon. Now you will be using the print that you like, and I hope this tutorial inspires you to make your own. And I'm going to take you along with me on this adventure to make this photographic backdrop slash fireplace cover. And I have been wanting to do this for quite a while. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to have to do, guys, and by the way, this bag, guys, came from AC Moore for $1. That's what it is. It's the shopping bag, and it's a rather large bag. So the first thing we have to do is we have to measure this shopping bag, which I have already done, and we have to measure the fireplace. And so I will be showing you how to do that. First, measure the bag, and then measure the fireplace, and then we'll have to do some math to figure out what our measurements are and how much fabric we're going to need to go in the outer barrier. Then the ribbon will be glued onto it. This is a totally no-sew glue project. So let me clear off this table and let's get started. From this piece of the edge all the way to this piece of the edge, the inside, disregarding this little edge of the bag. And you will write that down. Now, I know that you also need to measure the width or the height of this bag. Now, here's the thing to bear in mind with the bag. This particular bag, guys, is 18.5 inches wide this way. So it's wider than it is taller. Now, you want to go ahead and you want to write that measurement down. So 18.5 inches wide. And make sure that you write wide so that you know what the heck you're talking about, and you can go back and look at your notes and know what you said. Now, even though I've got this sewn right here, I don't want to include that because the handle is here. Now, if you're going to work a handle into your project, then by all means, go ahead and use this top edge. You can do that, no problem. I am going to be going across those stitches. The thing with the shopping bag is if I try to take a stitch ripper and pick these stitches out, there will be holes in this bag because it's PVC plastic and it's going to make holes. It's already been pierced. It's going to make a hole. I don't want that in my design. So be mindful of that. You want to come from this thread down. Now here's the thing. This particular bag is actually 16 3/4 of an inch tall. Well, I have a lot of white snow down here, which is fine. But for me to simplify my math to make it easier on me, you either want to do it in a whole or a half. That way it just simplifies things for you. And because this is a lot, I don't have no extra up here. And I have a lot of extra down here. So I will be actually only taking 16 inches of my bag is the height. And you just write height. That way, there's no confusion when you go to measure your fireplace. So that's the next thing we need to do. Let's go measure the fireplace. So here we are at the fireplace. And I have my yardstick, and I am going to measure how wide I want my fireplace cover to be. I'm actually going to make my fireplace cover 36 inches wide. I want to mask the brass on this. This gold color is very 80s. We bought our home in 95, and that's just something you don't change out, is the fireplace. Mine is actually 22, to be exact, from where I want to cover all the way up to the top. Now, I can allow myself a little bit of difference, but here's the problem. I have the handles here at my door to where I have to pull to open up my fireplace. So I need my edge to meet right here whenever I make my cover. And that measurement is 22 inches. And the best way to do that is set your yardstick or your measuring tape right on that handle and then measure it up to the top to where it needs to be. Okay, so I went back and I wrote bag here so that I know that's my bag's measurements. And so I took measurements and allowed for a difference. So 36 inches wide and 22 inches tall. Or let me write height as we spoke about. That way we don't get mixed up with our measurements. This is extremely important. This is a crucial part. It's hard to look through the video camera and write at the same time, so I apologize. We've got our bag and we got our measurements of the fireplace. We have to do some math here. Let me just draw me a little fireplace here. If I do my pieces that I need, the difference on the left and the right side of my fireplace first, because there's the door and here's little handles. This is the fireplace. So I'm going to mark that out because I don't need it to confuse me. I'm worried about my left and I'm worried about my right. So if we have our width, which is 36 inches by 18 inches, that gets us down to the 9-inch mark, because we have now allowed a 1/2 inch on each side, left and the right, of the fireplace. And that's where our width comes in. So we divide the 18 inches that we came up with by 2, and that'll give us 9 inches. Well, our bag is only 16 inches tall. So that means that we're going to need approximately 2 strips of fabric cut at 9 inches by 16 inches. All right, so that will take care of the left and the right side. Now we have to worry about making it tall enough to cover the front of the fireplace. Well, we've got to worry about the height of the fireplace. Well, if the bag is only 16 inches tall and the fireplace, the area that we need to cover, is 22 inches, and that's allowing the difference for gluing, then we just do the math between, which would be 6 inches, because 22 minus the 16 is 6 inches. Divided by 2 would give us 3. So if we divide that by 2, we're going to end up with 3 inches at the top and 3 inches at the bottom that we need. So we will cut 2 strips that are 3 inches by 36 inches wide. And that will take care of what we need to glue to the sides of our bag. So, has everybody been able to, I hope everybody could have followed that okay. And if not, maybe you can rewind and pause the video as you need. So, I am going to pause, cut my fabric, and get ready to start gluing it down to the bag. Before I go to cut my fabric, most important, make sure you write down your measurements so that you don't get confused. And since you really need to be able to focus, and that will be confusing, just trust your measurements. Measure twice, cut once. That's a quilter's rule. That's a sewer's rule, a seamstress rule. Measure twice, cut once. So go back, check your math, make sure you're absolutely positively sure, and have it written down, and then proceed to cut your fabric to those adjusted measurements. If you have to, since you're dealing with buffalo check, it is I highly recommend that you go ahead and cut it at the square so that you have a full square. There's not no cut in between the squares. You go, cut this block out complete. So if your measurement ends up halfway mark, go ahead and round it off, so to speak, and cut that line out so you don't get confused, because you can turn that under and glue it. It's not going to be a problem. If everybody's been following along, then they know that I had instructed that we need to cut our bag to where this seam is not on there at all. So I'm basically going right down the edge, and I'm going to cut that away because I'm not going to be using that in my design. Additionally, I'm going to be cutting right here on this thread because I do not want this handle or the holes that if I rip these stitches out, it would make too many holes, and I don't want that to show up in my design. Now, to make my math easier, I'm cutting my bag at 16 inches in the height. So I'm making sure that I go in 3 places, which is always a golden rule when you're doing any kind of fabric or project where you're going to be using measurements. Always allow yourself that difference. Then I will just basically take my ruler and draw me a line and intersect all 3 of them. And I am just drawing me a line so that I can cut straight. Things I want to coach you guys on so that it will be easier for you when you do projects. And coming from a quilter's perspective, anytime that you are measuring fabric, make sure that you stick with the same measuring components. So if you used a mat, if you used a ruler, whichever ruler you used, use it consistently throughout that entire project. Because, number one, the brain. Number two, it can be confusing. And if you have used, anytime you use a ruler, there's always a certain spot that your eyes go to, and you'll consistently use that same ruler. Your measurements will always be consistent, and they'll come out better. The other thing I wanted to cover with you, we are dealing with buffalo check fabric, all right? Now, for the most part, the repeat on the fabric means how many times and how far apart this print is done. So these squares on buffalo check are approximately 1/2 inch in between each other. And that can help you with your math a little bit. So we know, or I know that by my measurements, my strips for my top and my bottom are going to be 3 inches. And I know that it has to be 36 inches long. Well, I have a yard of fabric, and this fabric I got from Walmart in the pre-cut bundles. It is every 1/2 inch. If you ever measure that and you check your print, if it is quality fabric, it will be on the mark all the way down consistently. If it is not quality fabric, of course, it's not going to do that consistently. But with that being said, remember I told you guys that if you're measuring and it falls out of that half mark or quarter mark, see that where my 3 inches is hitting? Well, what I will do is I will go ahead and take that 1/8 of an inch and go ahead and make it 3 1/8 of an inch in my cut because of the repeat of the fabric. Even though those are supposed to be hitting on the 1/2 inch mark, if you look consistently where I've got my ruler, they are starting to slide off of the scale. See that right there? That is, the bottom of this should be 2 inches, but it's not. It's actually a little bit wider. Where this one up here is also below the 1/2 inch. So these are actually a little over 1/2 inch squares. And that's going to disturb if you're not paying attention. So when you measure this, make sure that, see, I only need 3 inches. So I'm actually going to go ahead and round that off and cut that square, and I'll just have an extra 1/8 of an inch on each side, which is fine. Just be aware of those things, okay? Not only are we concerned about making sure that we round that off, the nap, you want to remove that. You do not want that to show up in your project. If this were a fabric that we were going to be washing, the nap draws up tighter. It contracts and it will shrink faster than the rest of the fabric. So this nap is where the fabric is pulled off on a doff, and they are hooked with teeth. And that nap is the beginning of the weave on the machine. So you want to look really closely, and you see those holes? So I will probably go all the way to here and cut that nap off. So just make sure you remove the nap. Do not include it in your project. This is a glue project, but just as a rule of thumb, out of habit, go ahead and take it off. If you want to, you can make a rug with it, and maybe, just maybe, for a future DIY, I will teach y'all how you can take your nap strips and make a rug out of them. The way that my buffalo check fabric was cut out, as you can see, I have a white blocks here and black here. But on this piece, I have black and I have black. So bear this in mind. Since black is consistent on both these pieces, then that would be the piece that you want to go in the outer perimeters, because it will be the first thing that people will draw their eyes to, per se. And then that way it goes completely unnoticed if this is over here on the edge and this black is on the outside, because people are going to see the photograph and not pay attention to the outer perimeters, but the outer perimeters will be consistent with each other. Start gluing. What you want to bear in mind is we are not sewing, and we don't have to worry about raw edges, because this PVC bag is not going to matter. We just want to line everything up and make it smooth. So what you have to remember is they need to be side by side. You're not going to pile them on top of each other like this. They are going to be side by side so that both right sides are facing down. And then we're going to put glue on this edge, and then I'm just going to put the fabric on that glued edge. One more thing while I've got it in mind. See this upper edge where there was a little bit of black? Remember I told you guys to round off? Well, this was next to an edge. I actually am not worried about that edge, because we're going to be putting a piece down here at the bottom, remember? So, right, guys, I got one side glued on, and one little tidbit I wanted to add is make sure you do not pull on your fabric, because it will stretch. You just want to let it just take hold and press it down when you've got this flipped over back here and you're gluing it down. Get ready to do my top and my bottom, and I am using the buffalo check fabric, so this is what you want to bear in mind. If you can, if at all possible, you want to try to match your fabrics. See how I'm matching those? And then that's the end you want to begin gluing on, versus trying to go against yourself. That way it looks right whenever you glue this down. Okay, and so just fold your piece in half like I'm doing right here. What I'm doing here is I'm taking a pencil and I'm basically marking the top and the bottom of the center, because I'm going to be putting ice cream sticks on this edge, and I do not want to glue any in the center, because we want this to be a fold away fireplace cover, or per se fabric screen that is going to actually hang on the doors of our fireplace. I know cover in front of a space, or maybe you have an older home and there's no longer a fireplace or anything there, and you just want something for looks that you can put up and make it look really nice there in that space, or even as a backdrop. This cover that we are making, guys, is going to be dual purpose, and let me explain. When we get this thing put together, you could use this as a photographic backdrop. Would that just not be the most darling thing you've ever seen? You could potentially hang this somewhere where you're doing photographs, and, you know, place it on the wall and have everybody to stand in front of it during the holiday, during Christmas, and then that way they're getting their photograph made in front of the little blue truck, for example, on this one. So your cover does not exactly have to be for the front of your fireplace. It can actually be your backdrop for photographs for the holidays. Now we have our middle marked. And at this time, we want to make sure that we've got an extra glue stick ready. And we are going to start gluing sticks to the edge all the way up to this center point. We don't want to glue past that because we want to be able to fold this away and put it away after the holiday. And we put my glue stick on there and put my ice cream stick to my fabric. And as you see, I'm spreading that glue around because it will pile up and it can become hardened. And, well, it's just not easily situated. And it just don't want to stick as good if you get it too hard. Or too piled up, it becomes too hard. And it just makes for easy adhering if you kind of spread it out a little bit when you're dealing with fabrics. Certain things you do want to pile it up, but on fabric you kind of want to smear it and knock it out of its pile so that it's not a hard knot there or risen up on the fabric, and that way it adheres really fast and quick too, and it'll look a lot smoother on your project. And then once we get the glue stick, this is my very last one, glued into place. And I hope you guys have been enjoying this DIY. And I certainly hope that you will put yours to use, that you will actually use it and see what you can create with this idea. It would be fantabulous to see what you guys come up with. Definitely throw me some comments and tell me what you thought of this project, if you liked it or not. And if you have some pictures, please share them with me through Instagram and tag me. I would love to see them. It would be such a great compliment to know that you guys truly, truly liked this project. So now my ribbon onto the top of my fireplace / photo backdrop. And my magnet will actually be buckled to the ribbon. I need that to overlap by 2.5 inches. You want your longer strip that's going across the top to overlap because that is where it's going to be holding a lot of weight, and you want a continuous strip versus buckling to this piece and hanging down. Anything to compensate because gravity pulls. So we want the top strip to be a continuous strip and not be pieced if possible in the corner. So I'll start mine off at the top, and then I will meet this strip underneath it. I have my ribbon glued all the way around my outside of my fireplace / photo backdrop. And I am going to take it to the fireplace and size it up and make sure everything looks good and is matching up before I put my magnets in the corners. And just see how everything's fitting. And now it's time to put on the magnets. For simple, just surety measures, I'm going to use 2 of my larger ones versus my small ones. And then that will be able to hold more weight. Don't know that I'm going to need one in the middle. As the way it's looking, I shouldn't, but you never know. It is a DIY. And we just kind of work this thing out as we go along. Now I've placed some small ones in the bottom corners just for extra security and keeping it against the fireplace. And then that way, if it's a backdrop, it could be placed onto a refrigerator and you could adjust it a little bit better. And I went ahead, since there's 4 to a pack of the jumbo size magnets, I just went ahead and I put 1 on each side of my fold. That way it just gives it some extra insurance and helps it to take the weight. So now it is, gang, on the fireplace, and the magnets are in place. As I said before, there's 4 at the very top, and they're the large, and then there are 2 small ones, 1 in each corner. And as you can see how I had to do the ribbon down at the bottom because of the handles of my fireplace. And to close off any raw edges of that fabric, the ribbon was the perfect answer. It also broke up how busy the check is so that it doesn't harm the eyes or make you feel like you're having a seizure. You guys do this DIY, please tag me on Instagram and show me what you made, how you did it, what you done. I would love to see it. And I certainly hope you guys enjoyed this video and that you give it a try. Please share it with a family, friend, on your social media. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel already, I certainly hope this encourages you to. Until the next DIY, you guys have a glorious, wonderfully dandy, crafty day. Additionally, I wanted to show you guys the backdrop for a photograph. I have this buckled to my refrigerator and it is working out great. The magnets are holding it on there just perfect. That way, if you have a standard refrigerator and you make one as wide as mine, you can actually buckle it on the sides if you needed to, the left and the right. And I just wanted to show it to you. I think it just looks absolutely awesome. I'm in my kitchen and the window I have coming over my sink is showing in some really bright daylight because it's very early in the morning right now. And so I apologize that this seems a little bit lighter, but it's actually very, very beautiful. If I maybe put my back to the window a little bit, you can really see the colors and how vivid it is. It's just a very attractive picture from that bag. But I wanted to show you guys some other options so that you will know that I did try this on my refrigerator, and I am entertaining using it as the backdrop for photographs during the holiday. When everybody comes over for Christmas, everybody's going to want to take a photograph with the little blue truck. So you guys, I hope you enjoy, and show me your pictures. Bye.